You categorize it into four groups, generally, a person's regrets. And, well, tell us what they are, first of all.
Sure. Well, let me tell you how I got them, because so one of the things that I did for this batch of research is that I did something called the World Regret Survey, where I invited people around the world to submit their regrets. And in a blink, we ended up collecting 16,000 regrets from people in 105 countries. It's unbelievable. And what I found is that over and over again, people kept expressing, exactly as you say, Megyn, these same four core regrets. And what was interesting about that is that the way that academics had been dealing with regret, sort of categorizing regret, I think turned out to be a little bit off. We tended to think that something is a career regret or a financial regret or a health regret. And what I found beneath the surface is something else. Let me give you an example of this. So I had in this database of regrets, huge numbers of regrets about people who didn't ask somebody out on a date years ago. There's this person who I was really into. I didn't ask him or her out, and I've regretted it ever since. That's a romance regret. Then you have people who regret not starting businesses. Then you have people who regret not traveling enough. And all of those regrets are the same. All of those regrets are exactly the same regret, even though one of them seems like a career regret, one of them seems like a personal regret, one of them seems like a romance regret. All of those regrets are the same. They're boldness regrets. If only I'd taken the chance. And so around the world, these same four regrets keep coming up. Foundation regrets. If only I'd done the work. People regret not saving money, not taking care of their car. Not taking care of their bodies. I'm
You're still on my doctor.
Mesmerized by the Mercedes-Benz. Yeah. But sort of what your doctor's talking about, saying that your car is not in good enough shape because you haven't been changing the oil. And I'll stop the automotive metaphor right now. Not taking care of your health, not saving money, not working hard in school. That's a foundation regret. If only I'd done the work. Boldness regrets. Over and over again, people regret not taking the chance in any domain of life. Third one. Moral regrets, which you and I have talked a little bit about here, which is if only I'd done the right thing. These are regrets that people have. We mentioned bullying earlier, but these are regrets that people have about infidelity and other kinds of things based on their own moral code. They were at a juncture, they could do the right thing or the wrong thing, and they end up doing the wrong thing and they regret it. And finally, there are connection regrets, which is the biggest category, which is where you have people who have a relationship or should have had a relationship. The relationship comes apart, and they usually come apart in profoundly undramatic ways. They just drift. Somebody wants to reach out. They don't reach out. They think it's going to be awkward to reach out. They think the other side's not going to care, and they drift apart again. And so connection regrets are if only I had reached out. And what's so interesting about this, regardless of age, nationality, race, gender, these same four regrets keep coming up. If only I'd done the work. If only I'd taken the chance, if only I'd done the right thing, and if only I'd reached out. And I think what's interesting about these regrets, Megyn, and this led me to a place that I didn't expect to go to, is that these four core regrets operate as a photographic negative of the good life. If we understand what people regret the most, they are telling us what they value the most. And what we value in life, some stability, a chance to learn and grow and do something. We value goodness and we value love. And so in this weird way, this negative emotion, the thing that we try to shy away from is actually giving us clues about what makes life worth living.
Yes, clues. Yes. I love that. I can relate to this 100%. When I was an unhappy lawyer, it was after 9/11. It was, let's say, 2002 in Chicago, and 9/11 had happened, and I watched, in particular, Ashley Banfield that day on television. She was magnificent.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Then with NBC News. And not only did I admire her and appreciate the public service she was providing, but I had another feeling. It was envy, which must be a close cousin of regret somehow. I think they're somehow related. But I considered, instead of just wallowing in my envy, I flipped it and decided and understood, like on an inherent level, envy is a tell. Envy is an opportunity. Envy is something, it's my own brain and heart telling me you took a path You want to take a path that you haven't yet taken. Like you want to get to a place that you're not yet at. And it was still possible, right? It was still possible for me. And then I took it, right? And here I am 20 plus years later, very glad that I did. But right, it's a clue. If you can take these quote unquote negative emotions like regret, like envy, and instead of just wallowing and feeling bad, say, oh, it's a clue. It's a little mystery, the mystery of me. I'm solving it.
Well, I like that. I like that mystery of me. That's a good phrase. I mean, I think that's what it is. I mean, when we feel, here's the thing, when we feel the spear of regret, when we feel that negative emotion, the world is trying to tell us something. We are trying to tell ourselves something, and you can't ignore the signal. Now, the trouble that people have is that it's regret is painful and it's instructive. But you can't have just one. You can't have the instruction without the pain. You have to use that pain and discomfort as a signal. And when we do that, it points the way, because the other thing about this emotion of regret is it is clarifying. Just as the 16,000 people who around the world who submitted regret, it is a chorus telling us what they care about in their life. And what they care about in their life is not whether they buy a blue car or a gray car, whether they live in a super big house or a modestly big house. What they care about is some stability in their lives. They care about the chance to lead a psychologically rich life and do something in their limited time here. They care about being good. I'm convinced most people care about being good, and they care about love. And that's why this emotion, that instead of denying it or wallowing it, if we stare it in the eye, it's going to instruct us and it's going to clarify what makes a good life.
It's a reminder of your values. I got that. But also you make the point in the book that it can also be an exercise. If you run it through your regret, if you see it through to the end, it can be an exercise that you've been doing in unnecessary self-flagellation. Like you write in the book, and I love this, and I totally agree with it, that we have this combination when we think back on the things we regret of we do time travel and fabulism. You say it's a human superpower. I wrote, ha, 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 I am good actually at not doing this. And the thing that I'm good at not doing is the fabulism. Like, I'll go back and say, remember me making that decision? What if I had done a different decision? But you have to be realistic. Let's say you did call the guy who you wanted to call, or the gal, right? You didn't let that person get away. People lament not having made the call to the person they thought should have been their spouse, and then that person married somebody else. It's like the fabulism is they would have accepted my invitation. We would have hit it off brilliantly. We would have had this amazing life together. Well, how do you know? You don't know any of that. That's your human superpower kicking in, and it may not be serving you very well.
Well, what really bugs people, though, is that they don't know the answer to the story. And so there's a guy who I wrote about in the book he's a 62-year-old guy in Spokane, Washington. He graduated from college in the early 1980s. He goes to Europe for a year to work on a farm in Sweden. His final days in Europe, he's taking a train, and he's taking the train through France. He's sitting on this train, and there's a seat open next to him. A young woman comes on and sits next to him on this train. He's an American. His French is not very good. Her English is much better. They start talking. They start laughing. They start playing word games like, hangman on pieces of paper. It's a pre-Wordle world. They start leaning into each other. They start holding hands. And he said, it's like I'd known her my whole life. The train, she's Belgian. She's working as an au pair in France. The train gets to Belgium. She says, this is my stop. They don't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. He madly scribbles his parents' mailing address in Texas on a piece of paper, hands it to her. They kiss. She steps off the train, and he, 40 years later, says, I've always wished I stepped off the train. Now, is he certain that he would have had this passel of Belgian American kids later on? No. But what bugs him is the what if, that at that moment in his life, he didn't take the chance. It might not have worked out, but that what if has bugged him for 40 years into what is now a very unsatisfying marriage. And once he disclosed this regret to me in this survey, and I ended up interviewing him a couple of times, he ended up acting on it. to try to get to the end of the story. He ended up posting things in Paris Craigslist looking for a woman named Sandra who was riding on a train in 1983. And so this is it. It's the what if that really, really gnaws at us.